Today, we're going to pull back the curtain and take a look at the incredible, invisible connections that tie every living thing together. Welcome to the interconnected web of life. You know, from the tiniest little bug to the biggest blue whale, everything on this planet is connected. It's like this giant, invisible web. So today, we're going to trace a few of those threads and see where they lead. Let's get started. So to really get this web, we first have to understand the stage where this whole drama of life plays out. We need to set the scene. Now, there's a science for this. It's called ecology. But don't let the word fool you. It's not just about boring lists of plants and animals. No, it's all about the relationships, how they interact, how they depend on each other. Basically, it's the study of how life actually works together. And these relationships all happen inside something called an ecosystem. Now, you might think an ecosystem is just the living stuff, the plants and animals, but it's so much more. It's also the non-living things, the water, the air, the soil, even the rocks. It's how all of it, living and non-living, works together that makes a place like a forest or a coral reef what it is.
Okay, so if the ecosystem is the stage, then the way energy moves around, well, that's the script. It's the fundamental rulebook for life, and it all comes down to eating. All right, let's start at the very, very beginning. The foundation for pretty much all life on Earth. We're talking about producers, which is a fancy way of saying plants. Think about it, they're like little solar-powered factories, making their own food from sunlight. And this is so important. Every single food chain starts right here, with a plant.
So next up, you've got the consumers. And just like the name says, they can't make their own food, so they have to, well, consume it. That means they're either eating plants or they're eating other animals. And this right here is where things start to get really interesting. Now, some of those consumers are what we call predators. These are the hunters. They're built for the job with things like sharp teeth, incredible speed, or amazing eyesight. Like a lion on the savannah or a fox in the forest.
And of course, if you have hunters, you have to have the hunted. That's the prey. But these animals aren't just helpless victims. They have their own amazing set of skills to survive. Maybe they're super fast, or they're masters of disguise, hiding in plain sight.
So let's see how this works in a really simple food chain. First, you've got the grass, our producer, soaking up that sun. Step 1, a rabbit comes along and eats the grass. Step 2, a fox comes along and eats the rabbit. See that? The energy just moved from the grass to the rabbit to the fox. Simple, right?
Well, in the real world, it's almost never that clean and simple. I mean, a fox doesn't only eat rabbits, right? So what you really have is a food web. It's a whole bunch of those little food chains all tangled together. And that messiness, that complexity, is actually what makes the whole system so strong.
So with all this competition, how does any living thing manage to survive? Well, they have a few secrets, a couple of tricks up their sleeves. Let's talk about variation and adaptation. Okay, first, let's talk about variation. It's really just the fact that we're all a little different from each other. And it comes in two main flavors. You've got inherited variation. That's the stuff you get from your parents, like your eye color or how tall you are naturally. You're born with it. Then there's acquired variation. These are things that happen to you during your life, like getting a scar or building up your muscles. The key difference, you can't pass those acquired traits onto your kids. Now, when one of those inherited traits gives an animal a real survival advantage, we call it an adaptation. These are the special features that make an animal a perfect fit for where it lives. A polar bear's thick fur, that's an adaptation for the cold. A giraffe's long neck, an adaptation to reach the highest leaves. These are nature's amazing solutions, developed over millions of years.
Okay, so we've got this mind-boggling diversity of life out there. How on earth do scientists keep it all organized? Let's take a quick look at how they sort out the who's who of the animal kingdom.
We'll start with the vertebrates. That's animals with a backbone. And a great place to begin is with the group we're all in, mammals. We've all got hair or fur, we're warm-blooded, which means our bodies keep a steady temperature, and we feed milk to our babies. So yeah, your dog, a giant whale, and you, we're all in the same club. Next up, let's look at birds and reptiles. Birds are the easy ones to spot. If it has feathers, it's a bird, period. Reptiles, on the other hand, have that dry, scaly skin. And a really big difference is that reptiles are cold-blooded, so they need the sun to warm up and get going. And the last two groups of vertebrates are all about the water. You've got fish, which live their entire lives underwater, breathing with gills, and then you have amphibians, like frogs. They kind of live a double life, starting in the water as tadpoles and then living on land as adults.
So how does a scientist figure out where a new animal fits in all this? They use a pretty neat tool called a classification key. It's basically a series of yes or no questions. Does it have feathers? Yes. Okay, it's a bird. No? All right, next question. Does it have scales? It's like a choose-your-own-adventure for identifying animals.
All right, let's bring this all home. We've talked about the ecosystem, the rules of energy, and all the different players. Now it's time to talk about why every single piece of this puzzle is so incredibly important. This is really the ultimate question, isn't it? In a system that's so connected, so tangled, what actually happens if one of those links, one of those threads in the web, breaks?
Well, you get a domino effect. If you take out just one piece, the whole thing can start to fall apart. Think about it. If the plants disappear, nobody has any food. The whole web just collapses. If the prey animals disappear, the predators might starve. But what if the predators disappear? Then the prey animals could multiply like crazy and eat up all the plants, destroying the whole place for everybody.
And this all boils down to one simple but really powerful idea. Everything in a food chain is important. The grass, the rabbit, the fox, every single part matters. There are no small roles.
So we're right back where we started, looking at this beautiful, complex web of life. Every single thread is crucial, and the more we understand how it all works, the more we can see our own place in it. And that makes you think, doesn't it? What thread are you holding on to in this big, amazing web?